Hello everybody, welcome to WhatCulture Gaming. I'm Scott. Welcome to another episode of How X Should Y. At least that's how I usually title it, because I've talked about GTA 6 before. I did a video a couple of years ago, a very young, very terrible on camera, or at least, only slightly worse than I am now version of me, called How Rockstar Should Make GTA 6, where I talked about everything from settings to how the police AI could change, things like that. Did a more deep dive thing. But I've recently been playing Red Dead Redemption 2 and just thinking about how that game over time has not necessarily become divisive, but I think that it does tend to divide people a little bit. People do sort of come down in one of two ways. Either you really like the slow-moving, contemplative, it's virtual reality without the goggles approach, or you kind of yearn for the more old-school Rockstar, the Rockstar that used to specialize in these sort of sandbox experiences where they would give you a toolkit of potentials, of potential items and weapons and infiltration methods for, enemy encampments or whatever you were going up to, targets that need to be taken out, and just said, look, go forward, figure it out, do it however you want, and the game will understand that, the game will respond to that. And I think that sort of sandbox nature is what I want to drill down on, because I think going forward, Rockstar, considering how much they've changed over the years, how much they've embraced this sort of cinematic flair, they became so huge over the years. And if you look into, how much they now attract all these more casual gamers in a nice way, to bolster their sales figures. GTA 5 remaining in the charts since 2013. It's literally in the top 10 of America's top-selling games and the UK's top-selling games. That all comes from the fact that they have made their mechanics and made their mission design and made their games overall a hell of a lot more accessible to a more casual crowd. Now, it's not that there's anything wrong with that, it's just that there is a way to do it that I feel could tick both boxes. I think you could be this big, over-the-top, oh my god, AAA, look at that production, 100-hour crunch weeks, levels of quality, but also stick to the roots of why GTA took off so much. And that initial run of GTA 3, Vice City, San Andreas, even Liberty City Stories and Vice City Stories, you can bring across that sort of experimental side, that dynamic side that used to make GTA so endlessly replayable. It's not that GTA 5 isn't being played all day long by millions of people, but there's something a little bit missing. And I think if we're going to talk about what GTA 6 can be in terms of, what sort of design philosophies and ethoses that Rockstar will bring back, I want them to go back to why, like I said, GTA took off in the first place, and just give us this big interconnected noodle pile of potential that GTA used to be. Because the thing is, when you think about open world game design, like yes, we had, Zelda Ocarina of Time and we had Mario 64, we had these big open play spaces that Nintendo were experimenting with when they, broke the mold with 3D gaming in 1996. But it wasn't until Rockstar came along and said, look, we can plug in all these little side missions and dynamic interactions and ways that we can faff around with the AI, and, that stuff became open world gaming. And I remember there's a quote from Naughty Dog in their 30th anniversary art book where they were saying, look, we were making Crash Bandicoot, we were making Jak and Daxter, and then we saw GTA 3 and we looked up. As in, we had our heads down, we knew what we were as a company, we looked up, we saw GTA 3, and they went and did Jak 2. Which is one of my favorite open world games ever. But that idea that what Rockstar perfected with GTA 3, that blueprint that they laid down, would obviously go on to be humongously influential. And it ties in with so many of the signature elements that are in that blueprint that, like I said before, I think they've kind of gotten away from. Because if you go back to old school GTA, it engendered this mentality of, like I said, experimentation, but just improvisation as well. You were told, like, hey, there's a target that needs taking out on the other side of the city, and, here's a pistol, go do it. But you could, as a gamer, just go to ammunition, pick up a sniper rifle, and, you only had to get within, 10 blocks of the guy and just shoot him from far away. Mission complete, you've done it. If you need to go steal a car or something like that, and there's a target that's going to get in that car and then leave, you get there first, you plant a bomb in there. When that target gets in, they get blown up. If you need to win a race, you can go plant a car in the way of your opposition so that when that mission triggers, you can then get ahead of them. It was things like that I think, it's strange, because I bet on the coding side, on the developer side, I bet they were like, well, that stuff's kind of a happy accident because we couldn't account for every single way you were going to play that game. But at the same time, as they've gotten bigger, and like I mentioned before, with accessibility and popularity and, appealing to a more casual audience, all those elements have gone away, and all that general sort of ethos of experimentation has completely gone away. If you try and play a mission in Red Dead 2 differently to how the game wants you to, it'll just fail out. Like if you're supposed to steal, in that game's case, a stagecoach or something, it'll literally tell you exactly where it's supposed to be left afterwards. Same case in GTA 5. And obviously that game's signature element became the heist missions, which is just just a beat-by-beat, step-by-step breakdown of the sort of steps that we used to do ourselves in the older GTAs. Like steal this car, plant it here, blow this up, go over here. It's kind of lost something. And I kind of feel like Rockstar should be the ones front-loading that element of sandbox gameplay because they used to nail it so well. I remember when Vice City was first being premiered, when it was first being talked about and covered in magazines, and Rockstar got out there, and some of the earliest interviews was all of them talking about, look, when you want to leave a car, you can do that in motion. You can now shoot straight through the windshield and take a target out. You can pop different wheels to make a car crash, or you can approach missions in this way. And all of that stuff only, like I said before, only engendered that mentality of experimentation. You didn't start thinking, oh, well, I wonder which mission they've designed that's going to require me to pop some tires, in this crucial moment of this mission that leads up to this one sequence. It just made you think, well, all of those things are going to apply to everything they're going to be doing. And that was literally the case. If you ran out of ammo with your rocket launcher trying to take out some target, and you could zoom in enough with a sniper rifle or even aim with a pistol to shoot a tire, that might send your target careening off the road, and you could run up and finish them up with a baseball bat. Maybe that just isn't what GTA is anymore, but to me, it absolutely is. If we look at Rockstar as a company as well, you look at GTA taking off so much, them going so far down the cartoonish route with the likes of, San Andreas' jetpack and aliens and whatever else, and then GTA 4 was their big serious pivot, which at the time, I remember all the conversations at the time just being like, oh God, they've done this really serious thing, and young me and all my friends, everyone in high school was just wanting them to do more ridiculous stuff, wanting them to, do more jetpacks and craziness, which obviously is what Saints Row would embrace over time. Especially with Saints 3. But it's that whole thing where it's almost like they were confused as to what GTA should be. Is it the overblown ridiculousness of the original games, or is it something more grounded? Is it more Michael Mann than Michael Bay? That tends to be the thing that it gets grounded as. And then GTA 5, considering how much GTA 4 didn't, redefine what GTA was, 5 is then kind of a half mix. Like some stuff is more serious, like their attempts at bank heists and, some of the things that Trevor says and all this, socio-political commentary on things like torture and whatever, but also it's as ridiculous as possible. And yes, there are still aliens in there, and you can go on a trip, and if you get high at a certain place on one of the mountains, you can just transform into an eagle and fly around the landscape if you want to. So I kind of felt like they tried to sort of tick both boxes, and that resulted in them not necessarily knowing whether they should be aiming for the cinematic step-by-step approach or the make it up as you go along approach. Obviously in the sales it's worked for them, but for me it's gotten too far away from the things that the interactions, the dynamic interactions, the gameplay possibilities, the way that we used to play GTA. And it's one of the reasons that I wanted to make this video, because I also want to hand that over to you in the comments. Do you prefer the old school GTA when you were making it up as you went along and the sense of reward that came from that? In individual circumstances, like the way certain missions played out? Or do you like the cinematic flair? Do you like the feeling of being guided through a mission and knowing where you're supposed to go, and that being rewarding in itself? It's obviously something that Naughty Dog and Uncharted have done. And it kind of feels like they're sort of bringing that across into their design ethos as well. But yeah, I'm always super curious what GTA fans of different ages and different generations make of how the company have changed their approach to game design over the years. Because another thing is, if you look at the way that they used to handle even stuff like humor, you had the bit in San Andreas where you burst through the billboard and then realized that the cereal is called Cocoa Pops, because that was the level that we were at back in 2004 or whatever it was. But in GTA 5, you've got this set piece mission for dock work where you go and literally just move containers around, or it's like a stealth infiltration mission, or place this submarine over here, and it's very regimented. It's almost like there's the whole thing with the Life Invader mission with Michael, where it's we're going to plant a bug in a phone and blow fake Mark Zuckerberg's head off. And they're very much delivering you, served on a plate, here's this sketch that we wrote and you're gonna do it. And like I said, that whole billboard thing in San Andreas was the end of a mission, but it's that idea of everything being more authored as opposed to letting you be the author of your own comedic chaos, which is, GTA has been referred to as so many different things over the years, whether it is this black mirror held up to society, or whether it is just this ridiculous escapist, like I said, noodle pile maelstrom of possibility that lets you indulge your craziest, most chaotic thoughts. I like to think that it's all of those things, but how does a company encourage you to experiment and enjoy yourself, and when should they pull back and tell you exactly where you're supposed to go. I think all of those conversations are fascinating, especially considering how popular GTA is today. Because I am a lifelong Rockstar fan. I've literally been there since the beginning. I remember having to convince my parents to let me play the very first Grand Theft Auto. And I've got a friend of a friend who worked for Rockstar, and gave us the scoop on Red Dead 3. I actually reported on Red Dead 3, and we'll throw the image up on screen. Reported that Red Dead Redemption 2 was coming back in 2015. It's just that back then I was even more of a nobody, and nobody cared because I couldn't actually say who it was that had told me that thing, but that was an anonymous thing back then. Either way though, the point is that I've absolutely, like I said, I love Rockstar, and having been a lifelong fan and seeing them do everything from GTA to table tennis, Bully to LA Noire, it is fascinating seeing where they are right now, and seeing people like Strauss Zelnick sort of talk about the GTA brand and say that they didn't expect GTA Online to take off as much, and how that's changed the way that they approach what GTA even is. If we apply all of this stuff to Red Dead Redemption 2 as well, one of the biggest questions is, does Red Dead Redemption 2 fundamentally advance the tenets that Rockstar laid down over the years? Like, yes, the animation is second to none. Yes, the voice acting is phenomenal. The soundtrack is great. Everything is polished to a mirror sheen. But almost because of that, they need to deliver an experience that they can, they need to guarantee that everyone who's playing that is going to be able to come away with a fantastic experience. Something that you could maybe argue you wouldn't necessarily have got when the series was more in its, make your own fun stage. And that's one of the most fascinating things. Do they keep going with a Red Dead 2 approach, or do they go back to the old school? Now I'm going to make a really weird comparison here, because I recently bought Ghost Recon Breakpoint. I didn't buy it at launch because it was a broken mess, and let me tell you right now, that game is still broken as hell in 2020. It literally cannot load its own menus, because the little mini videos to tell you which upgrades you're about to unlock still chug like hell, and I'm on an Xbox One X. Anyway, I bought Ghost Recon Breakpoint to play the Splinter Cell DLC, but my point is that that game, for as much as it gets wrong and as much as it's all over the place in terms of loot and microtransactions and whatever the hell, that game's approach to combat and open world design is entirely sandbox based, where you're literally given a character, a toolkit, a set of abilities, and a series of targets to go take out. Like, yes, there are collectibles and there's all the Ubisoft boomph that pads the world out, but you're given that mentality of, go figure it out. You need to go, this guy needs taking out, or this guy needs extracting. They are in the middle of this compound, they're in the middle of this facility, they're surrounded by enemies, they're surrounded by vehicles, and different ways that and figure out how to get there. Are you gonna fly a plane over the top and parachute down in? Are you gonna try and swim around the back and come up and do some stealth kills and go in that way? That mentality straight up reminded me of old school GTA. And again, it was one of the other reasons why I wanted to do this video. Because another thing is I've been playing the Saints Row 3 remaster, which is still one of my favorite games of all time. I absolutely love the direction Saints Row went in, because it reminds me of old school GTA. But driving around that city of Steelport or Stillwater, whatever it's called, one of them, driving around the city, you see all these different AI interactions, all these different factions that are either talking to each other or shooting each other. And if you do the assassination missions, if you trigger someone that you need to take out, they'll pop up and they'll start walking around the city, but they're also being interacted with. So depending on whether you call some of your goons in to help you, or whether there's already a presence of a certain faction in a different part of the city, then that will result in this almost Bethesda-like crossing over of different AI scripts that, or improvisational AI that's trying to do what it can to sort of get across this sandbox criminal, open world space. Entirely things that I don't think GTA has done very well for years at this point. And for me, both Ghost Recon and Saints Row, and I know it sounds crazy because those games, especially Ghost Recon, is as far away from GTA as you would think, but they have that sandbox mentality down to a T. And for as much as Ubisoft have replicated it over and over and over and destroyed the identity of franchises like Assassin's Creed by applying it to them as well, at least there are some huge merits to just saying, look, you're the player, you're the author of this experience, go enjoy yourself. I guess all of this is to say that I don't necessarily think Rockstar are making open world crime sandbox games anymore. It makes me think of the way that Rocksteady approach open world games, where you have, the designed experience like here, here, and here, and we're just going to travel to different ones. That was very much how Arkham City felt for me, and I thought they got a bit better with Arkham Knight, actually because of the Batmobile. It gave you more stuff to do in between. But GTA has become this sort of set piece fest where you're going place to place, as opposed to having a constant series of interactions, dynamic interactions, combat and gameplay interactions as you go place to place. I think that's the thing that they need to get back to. I don't think they need to focus so much on what Uncharted brought to the industry, which was this cinematic flair, this idea of replicating Hollywood. As much as video games can do that stuff, the core tenets of why we love games is the gameplay. It's going to be the interaction. It's going to be the things that you think of and you try and they work. Another example, just to get across exactly what I'm going for, is bizarrely Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I know that hardcore Zelda fans hate that, it moved away from the formula of Zelda, but it's one of my favorite games of all time. It's my personal favorite Zelda. And that game, like I said, embraced that idea of making it up as you go along. Like maybe you're going to pick up an item that's lying next to an enemy and throw it into them using telekinesis. And then you're going to set something on fire to move some enemies into a different place. Then you're going to throw a weapon at someone and maybe lay down a piece of metal on the ground so that some imminent lightning storm strikes it and blows everybody else up. And then you're going to chop down a tree, make a makeshift raft, and sail off to the next thing. All of why that game is so magnificently polished and beautifully experimental is because all of the authorship to the experience is handed over to you. And I think for GTA 6, Rockstar need to learn from that. It's almost like they need to relearn the lessons that they themselves put out into the industry. Because just think of a GTA game, a GTA 6 game, with all of the power of the next generation, with all the lessons learned on sandbox gameplay that Rockstar themselves have put out there. Maybe they can bring in some different things from GTA Online, because a lot of that overblown, like I said, make it up as you go along mentality is actually in some of the GTA Online missions, in terms of them just saying, here, get over here, go take out this target, and you and a bunch of friends just figure out how to do it. I would love to see all of that stuff re-injected back into the main game, and I think that would make GTA 6. It would bring everything round full circle. It's not that you can't do over-the-top set-piece stuff, story moments and meaningful takeaway narratives, but you also need to be GTA. And I think that it's on them to find the balance. And also I'm going to love seeing what you guys think down in the comments below, which version of GTA you like as the years have unfolded. But at least that's my take for now. So yeah, let me know what you think down in the comments below. And if you have any other how X should, why, how this should happen, or whatever, let me know down in the comments as well. For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com, and I'll catch you soon.